Well, we're going to continue on our journey through the book of Hebrews. I hope you're finding it interesting and edifying and educational for you. I certainly pray that you're finding the use of your time worth what you're learning and what you're experiencing of the Lord. So we're going to be continuing today, looking at the next section, verses 10 through 13. So a few sessions ago, I did a big overview of 10 through 18. Last time I looked at basically the fact of Jesus' humanity in verses 5 through 9. And now we're going to look at 10 to 13. I'm going to zoom in on the first two reasons that he became a man. And again, I think we need to heed what we heard in Hebrews 2:1 about paying closer attention. So I think it's worth taking the extra time to do that, to pay closer attention. After we're done with 10 through 13, the next time then I'll look at the other two reasons that Jesus became a man. There's four in all here in verses 14 to 18. So if we review what we said last time, or in our overview, verse 10 tells us that for Jesus to be the Savior of men, he had to be a man in order to pay men's sins, and God to be the spotless, sinless, suffering offering. So he had to be both God and man to pay for man's sins, God to be the sinless offering. So someone has once said, it's kind of a startling statement, but absolutely true, that God saves us from God. That's what he does. God saves us from the wrath of God. And that's what we see Jesus doing. Notice that it says at the beginning of the verse that it was fitting for him. Well, what does that mean, fitting for him? Catches my attention because it's repeated again later in the book. It means that it's basically in accordance with God's eternal plan to bring glory to himself through Jesus. That Jesus was the man. It was fitting for Jesus because of all the reasons that we've already gone over about who he is and what he does and what he is going to do and what he's doing right now, waiting at the right hand of the Father, that he is fitting for him. So it was Jesus himself that had to become that man. And then it says, for whom are all things and through whom are all things. He's talking about God here, God the Father. He's the sovereign ruler of everything and everyone. So God in his sovereign command, his sovereign decree that was made before eternity, before the creation of the heavens and the earth, that God decided that how everything was going to work out and how salvation would be brought to sinful men and how he would be glorified through Christ and the salvation of sinful people. So he says, for whom are all things and through whom all things, and bringing many sons to glory. So there's the goal there, to bring many sons to glory, to perfect the originator of their salvation through suffering. So perfect could mean, sometimes means that something's been improved, right? Something's been taken from an imperfect state to a perfect state, but that doesn't apply here. That's not what it means here. The Greek word and what is implied here is that Jesus carries out the purpose or plan which was intended for him. He does that perfectly, without flaw. He does exactly what God decided he was fitted for. And Jesus, in this way, means that Jesus suffered, he died, was raised, and will rule in the future just as God always intended him to. So it's fitting for God to use him because this was the purpose, this was the plan, this is what Jesus was intended to do. So it's perfect in that sense. It calls him an odd name here. Nowhere else in the New Testament is Jesus called the originator of these many sons, of their salvation through sufferings. So what does this mean? He means he's the leader. The originator here means not just to start, but the leader, the first in a series, we can think about that. Jesus leads the way for us. This is the way he's been perfected, right? He's gone through suffering, death, raised, will rule, just as God has intended him to do. And he is leading us in that same direction. He is leading us to suffer in this life. He is leading us to be raised again from the dead. He is leading us into that millennial kingdom where we will reign and rule with him. That's what it means that he is the originator. We can think of it as if we were filing along behind him and being faithful to him and moving ahead. So he must be this Savior of men. Verse 11 then goes on to specify some other things. You need to be identified with men, took on humanity, in other words, to be an effective sanctifier for those being sanctified. Notice this repetition begins at the end of verse 10 and moves into verse 11, that he is originator of their salvation. Then we come into verse 11, and they are sanctified, and he is the sanctifier, and they are being sanctified. So Jesus is the source of all this. Jesus is the beginning of our salvation. He leads us to salvation. He sanctifies us, that he's making us holy. He's changing us through his Spirit. And we are the ones who are sanctified. This is a process we're in. We're not expected to be, by Jesus, perfect. He is a faithful helper. He is a faithful high priest interceding for us, as we're going to learn. He is helping us in this process of sanctification, and we're being sanctified. And look at how he refers to us as we come from one Father, not ashamed to call them, that's us, brothers and sisters. And then he quotes the Old Testament again to reinforce that this has always been God's plan. Message here, I think, is that we are linked through our shared humanity. Remember, this is talking about Jesus' humanity. We are linked through our shared humanity with Jesus in our present suffering and our future glory. We are linked together with him. So we can say that Jesus is our leader through the troubles of this life. He suffered to an extent that none of us who sin can match, because he suffered and proved to be sinless. He never succumbed to sin. Jesus is our leader into the glories of eternity. As we prove to be persistent in our pursuit of holiness and our living in light of eternity, not perfect, but persistent, we will share in his glory. We look forward to that. We look forward to that grace of eternity that's going to be ours. We're no longer, as we'll discuss next time, no longer bound to just live for this life, but have been freed to live for another life. So how do we respond to this? What should we do? How should we answer what we're learning here? Well, we can pray. Pray that you would not only know about the fellowship that you share with Jesus, the originator of your salvation and mine, but also pray that you would somehow experience that you would know that intimacy and fellowship with him in your inner being. This is my prayer for myself, to know his love, as Paul says in Ephesians, with greater clarity, the height, the depth, the breadth of his love, to know that, to understand all that he's done for us, and to enjoy that fellowship with him that he took on himself for our sake. So I pray, brothers and sisters, that you pray with me to have a greater intimacy and a greater closeness with him.